the ball. Gibson Park. Now they have the numbers. Ngatai.
Give it, Ngatai.
Charlie Ngatai.
Give it.
Fuck, I don't think he'd give it.
And they were good enough.
New Zealand Maori. Dan Pryor's the hero. Here's the throw from Gibson Park. They had numbers to the right-hand flank with a nice pass by Royal to his captain. I thought he'd blown it initially, Charlie Ngatai, but watch this offload. Draws in the last two defenders. The
animal.
And the dredge flying. Game over. In the biggest season of Dan Pryor's career, he puts the finishing touch on a miracle victory in Tokyo. Ngati Awa, Ngati Pikio. Dan Pryor, the captain of the Taniwha, has invoked the spirits here today. Oh, the grandson of another famous Maori All Black, Albie Pryor.
They're good.
As the final say in this match and on this tour. What a finish. The Jeksum for the Japanese team. They did enough to win it. But the skills and the never give up attitude by the New Zealand Maori All Blacks.
Rightio.
Wow.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Welcome everyone to Couple Deep. Even though we're multiple deep, we'll get it started. I've got my co-host here. You're the Knucklehead, aka Matt Moulds.
How's it going, lads? It's a pleasure to be here with you. And if we're on the top of a pig's, Daniel Porkins, it's nice to be here with you, boy.
Well, to be fair, it was a risky move bringing Knucklehead on for the first podcast because he's got a track record of average chat. But every now and then he's got a little gold nugget he spews out. So
Hopefully there's a couple around, eh?
hopefully there's a couple of nuggies.
Deep.
But without further ado, fuck my man.
Ski.
It's somewhat ironic and iconic that the man that got me my first start for the Tanis is here for my first podcast. And I got a hell of a guest right here. My man's played for the Tanis, of course, first and foremost, the Tanis. We've got the Blues, we've got the Landers, we've got Sanix in Japan, captained the Sunwolves a couple of times, currently in San Diego.
California, baby.
But most of all, and I know, apart from the Tanis, what makes him the most proudest is his Māori All Black caps, following on from his grandfather, Albie Pryor, and also his brother Kara's in there too. So good to have you on, brother.
Cheers, bro. Fuck. That was an unreal intro. It was nostalgic, actually. I was listening to that.
Wow,
Got
bro.
the blood flowing again, to be honest. Shit.
That's it, bro. I worked a long time on this intro.
You're not known as a technical man, but you're looking bloody good behind those pedals, mate.
I've put in work, brother.
Couple of YouTubes deep.
Multiple YouTubes deep. Anyway, bro, if we go to something current, you're back on a wee break from San Diego.
Yep.
You've done a little bit of time in South Africa there, getting those, working with the lads doing the, what is it? The
Rhinos.
Rhinos,
yeah,
eh?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Obviously in San Diego, we'll probably touch on that a bit later in the MLR, but 9 months. But one of the boys there runs a sort of conservation team in South Africa that sort of goes around and dehorns rhinos before the poachers can get them. So he knew what my vibe was in terms of traveling and, you know, with animals and stuff. And he said, do you want to jump on this team? And I had to jump at the opportunity. It was sort of just like he just flew us there. He had this crack team of, pilots and doctors and, dudes shooting tranquilizing rhinos. He's like, got us up at 4:30. He's like, mate, just be ready. It's all on. So that was an unreal experience, obviously, just being in the wild, and these animals are massive, man, and they charge. It was cool. It was a cool experience for me, for sure.
That's dope, bro. Just on a wee side note here, just poured us a little Shack Life.
Yeah.
This is our homebrew we're working on at the moment. Should come out in the market at some time in the future. Knucklehead, wrap your laughing gear around that.
I absolutely will. It's one of the top
Deep.
drops.
It's definitely more than homebrew, brother. This is perfected rum. None other than obviously Moldsy will touch on it a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Cheers.
Cheers, brothers.
Cheers,
There's
lads.
a monumental
Bloody good.
occasion for
Yeah.
the boys.
Very monumental.
How good.
Indeed.
Well done on your first podcast,
Oh.
mate.
Smells
Honour,
of
brothers.
lemon.
You've
Absolute
you've
beauty.
chucked the bank at all this fancy equipment. I'm proud of you. Even though that most of this is my rent money, but you know.
Probably owe you a few grand on contracts to do as well. The many contracts
That
you got.
later, yeah. If this takes off, I'm taking 10%.
You can halve it by halving a bed.
Anyways, bro, let's go to current San Diego. What's the footy like there? What's the go? What's the vibes?
Yeah, man. Moldy was playing with me in San Diego this year in the MLR. I tell a lot of people I'm obviously in the twilight of my career. So I just wanted to go to a place where I was sort of happy in terms of lifestyle, and San Diego's the one for me. Obviously, he's got the beach and it's a bit of a vibe. It's a cool place, America. But the league's growing for sure. Americans they love rugby. They love the physicality. They're still learning it, but it's definitely going to take off for sure. And it's almost to be a part of it as it's growing, you know.
You got a few guys that have come from gridiron converting into footy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in other teams too, I think we had a couple, but they just got athletes. They're just athletes, down to their core.
100%.
Fast, explosive.
But like ourselves.
Yeah, obviously,
Plenty of Twitch fighters going around, eh?
Mate, the amount of fast Twitch fibers around this table is outstanding.
Mostly
astronomical.
made of bone, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of fast twitching bone, mate.
Yeah, at least no one's pulling a muscle.
On multiple levels.
Just bone.
But they're learning, you know, like they just don't know the little intricate parts of rugby like we do. We grew up with it, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but they'll get there, man. They're going to be dangerous. Obviously, they had a bit of a tough run, the American team this year, but
Yeah.
give them 10 years.
Did I hear right? They missed out on the World Cup.
Yeah.
Straight.
They
That's
did,
cock
mate.
up.
Yeah, that is a cock
Quite
up for sure.
unfortunate, really. 'Cause
But yeah,
Fuck,
like I say, they'll be there. You know, they just got to learn the game, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you got like any linemen that played in the gridiron game as linemen? Obviously now in rugby they get to grab the ball and have a run and shit.
I did.
Must be dope.
Yeah, I did last year. This dude, Spice, he was a lineman, college team. He was quite a good football player. But that's the thing. It's interesting because growing up their whole lives for football, they just do one job as a lineman, just block. You know, they only do one thing. And now he's getting the ball and he's running and he's tackling. And he's like blows his mind a little bit, eh? So it's gonna catch on for all those sort of like guys like that. They come to football because they can do so many things in footy. So it's gonna be interesting next couple of years, you know, in America for sure.
Fuck, how does the bow run? Upright as?
Right, it's
Bang!
straight T-bone.
Hey, he's a big man, but laterally he's money.
Rapid.
Fucking beauty. Yeah.
Just touching on your San Diego time, obviously, you know, admitting to being in your twilight time of your career.
Fine wine, almost.
What else about San Diego was appealing to you? Like, obviously, it's California. You're a bit of a beach man yourself, so give us a bit of that.
California girls, as Bruno Mars would say, Moldy. Yeah, definitely, it's scenic. And if you can put it that way, on multiple levels. But the biggest thing for me, being a music man, is just like the gigs there. Like, you know what it's like. You know, Wednesday night you're seeing Chris Stapleton live, and then Saturday you're seeing the Red Hot Chilies. You know what I mean? So it's just coming from New Zealand, where big acts come once every couple of years. They just have them on tap over there, which is cool.
Fuck, that is nice, eh? Just to roll
It is
down
nice, Walkie.
for a beautiful little concert.
It is, mate.
Yeah, you don't get to.
Not a bad date idea, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Easy watch.
Chris Stapleton's got the voice. And he certainly can belt it out for a date. So.
Yeah, he does, yeah, for sure.
Indeed. All right, brother. Let's take it back. We'll go back in chronological order.
Oh, got it out.
Yeah, you were worried about that word. That's a big do for that, man.
I was slowly processing it in my lid as I was saying it. But let's go back to where it all started. We'll go back to high school first and foremost, Auckland Grammar.
Yeah.
Tell us about your footy there and whatnot.
Yeah, man. So I was born and raised in Auckland.
Southeastern.
Yeah. So Roscoe originally. And then...
We wish you could say he's from the hood, but he's not.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. But yeah, most people think I grew up in Northland, obviously, because of my career up here. But no, born and raised in Auckland, and then went to Auckland Grammar High School, the production line, some call it. But no, it was cool. I loved it there, man. It's a big rugby school. Just the standards and the level that sort of they instill in you is pretty awesome. And I was able to make first 15 and stuff like that. And
What age did you make the first 15?
I was fifth form, which is very, very rare for a rugby player to make fifth form. Granted, it was my second attempt at fifth form. You know, you get a couple wrong answers these days, and you have to repeat a year. So,
Like my first podcast, I got a prodigy fucking with us.
exactly. I know. I just like to go back and make sure I've done everything right. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
clinical that way. But so I'd say second year fifths. I mean sixth form if you're being technical. But yeah. So now it was awesome, man. I managed to win a couple of championships with Auckland Grammar. So
Did you have? Do you have any other guys that are professional at the moment on your team?
that come from my teams then.
Yeah, the actual team you're in. Yeah.
So Winston Stanley was
Quasi.
Winston Stanley was my captain. Dave Thomas played high level footy as well. I'm just trying to think off the top of my dome. Very knowledgeable.
That's so neat, really.
Ash Moiki, another
Oh yeah.
class first five. Yep.
Yeah.
Beat Auckland with his right boot. Yeah, no, it's just to name a
Tanis
couple.
Ledge. Oh man.
Sitaliki Tamani.
Yeah.
Obviously Waratahs and Australian. He's doing big things, but yeah, no, I had a few of them.
Yeah, fuck man. Right, we'll move on, go forward in the career. So you're a young fella, you're floating around the Auckland system.
Yep.
They've had a look at your legs and they've said, this bloke's probably not going to go too much further in the big smoke. You've got the call up from the Tanis as an injury cover. You've rolled up up the north, got that short lesbian haircut of the early days.
You know, they used to call him Pantene Pryor, eh?
I know that, nah.
It's
That
absolutely
was
shiny
clean,
lid.
dog. I'm gonna bring that back.
Oh, that was a shiny lid. It was blooming.
That was nice.
It was well hair dressed.
Yeah, well, his hair always looked dirty. I don't know how he's Pantene, but
Some beautiful lesbians out there.
oh, there is. Couple deeps for everyone, bro.
Run a brush through that for sure every morning. No knots at all.
Tell me about when you first got up here. What was the intro like?
It's a funny yarn, this one. So I was in the Auckland system. I was in sort of Auckland ITM team, and then we had a preseason game. I played there, and then they just decided that they wanted to go a different direction. So I played the club final the next week, and we lost to Ponsonby. So I was a young man and lost the final. So that was a Saturday. So we had a big Sunday session to obviously cap off the season for club. And then honestly, man, I was in a state where I was just like, I actually don't want to play footy no more. I've been slogging away at Auckland. Obviously trained every morning with the Auckland team and didn't make it, so I was a bit down in the dumps as you are. And then Bryce Heem was playing for Northland at the time, and then Northland just had heaps of loosey injuries for the opening game. They rang me up on the Monday, and I was still hungover. Really hungover, obviously, from the festivities. And then I was like, oh, do you want to come and fill in this week versus Taranaki? We've got a game on Thursday. We'll pay you $1,000 for the week's work. And I was just sort of like...
Big dough back in those days.
Huge day, mate. It's a couple of Bitcoin now. But, so I was just thought to myself, well, I don't know if I'll play anymore, but I might as well just give this a crack. It's only a week, and then I'll get $1,000, you know what I mean? That was sort of my thinking. And then went up... flew into the team room on Wednesday night, and you got the likes of Dave Howell, who's a legend,
the goat,
Gus Collins, you got Bronson Murray, you got Rene Ranger. So it's obviously alluded to my haircut at the time. So I walked in, none of them knew me. And obviously, like walking into those dudes with a big, like straight long haircut, none of them say.
Rooster was probably turned on.
There's absolutely no doubt.
Knowing him now, but I mean, when I walked in, man, it was pretty frightening, to be fair. I obviously knew all these dudes, and they didn't, take to me too fondly. But and then sort of got the call up, and I was starting that Thursday night. Didn't know any moves, didn't know anyone on the team, and sort of ended up just going really well. I think I was top tackler. I made like 27 tackles and a couple of line breaks, and they sort of...
It's true, we must have been doing some defence.
I mean, the Tanis are like sometimes, dog.
Boys are in the fucking front line in the barracks.
Boys in the trenches, but a turnover ball.
But it just ended up, they were like, okay, do you want to come back for the next week? You went well, and then it just sort of happened. I went well again, and then I went well again, and then sort of 7 years later.
Took that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If we go back to when you're in the Auckland system, did they what was the communication from them? Were they like kind of dragging you along, saying your time will come, or
No, sort of, man. They were just like back in those days. It was sort of like the sevens are just jacklers, you know.
Yeah.
It was a jackling game back then, and I was sort of. I mean, the player that I am now, I was the same. I was out on the width. I was sort of elusive.
yeah?
Ball playing stone there. They just had no time for that. So
So-
I was lucky the rules changed later on in life, but yeah.
Did you think the writing was on the wall, or did you make a decision like, look, I'm done. Like, I need to look elsewhere. Or,
With Auckland.
yeah, with Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, after they booted me, and I was going through some other stuff, like I've been, going away at club, and I thought I was playing pretty well, and I just kept getting knocked back, you know what I mean? So I was sort of like, that was in my last year uni or something, so I was like, I'm just going to go back to uni and chill for a bit, and then this call from Northland came up, and I was like, in my head, I was just like, honestly, I was just like, I'm just going to go play hard, get this grand, and then,
Stack this grand.
Yeah, yeah. Thought I was a baller. But I was like, I'll just do this, and then the next week came there another grand, and I was sort of just like, sweet. But then as the weeks went on, and I mean, you guys know what the Northland culture's like. I loved it up here, you know what I mean, and I just sort of flourished, which is good timing, I guess, or lucky, or whatever you want to call it. But fell on my feet.
Yeah, indeed. And talking about more of your time in the Tanis, I feel like you eventually kind of went to you had a lot of respect within the coaches and the players, and for a personal level, I remember coming up, when I first come up, you were the kind of guy that got me my first start. I think Benny was injured, and I was flatting with you. You opened up an opportunity to go flat with you on Fids. Shout out to Fids.
Yep.
I always love you for that. And then to go further, you had a word with the coaches to get me a first crack. What did you actually say to them? Do you remember? Or nah?
Yeah. I was like, Benny's injured. This guy's injured. This guy's injured. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Fuck, we're scraping.
You know what I mean? Aussie Bob from Maris, he's got one arm. He wasn't available. So.
They got the whiteboard out, all these lines like, we put this kind of...
He's got about 30 metres on a place kick. Yeah, ready for you though.
Yeah, he's deadly inside the 22, and he's reasonably durable. That's about all.
He's got a pitching wedge out of the exit zone as well.
Far straight up. Well, whatever you said, bro, got me my
Nah,
start.
to be honest, bro, I said to them, I mean, Benny Seymour, shout out to Benny Seymour, he's a good dude.
Shout out, Benny.
He's an athlete and stuff, but
Benny?
Nah, not you. Not you. I mean, you were just like young then, not like you are now. But nah, he was a good player, but you just had a lot of heart, you know what I mean? And you can't, obviously the old saying, you can't teach heart, and we were sort of going through the phase of a career, the season where we needed it, and I just sort of said to the coaches, I mean, you were performing anyway, I think off the bench or in the preseason. I was like, why don't you just give him a crack? He can tackle, he mans up, he doesn't fall off, and he runs the cutter pretty well. I mean, what have we got to lose? And they were like, probably distance and kicking. I was like, I don't know.
Oh, bro. Old FIFA, fucking love you for that one, bro.
Lucky it's improved, eh?
That's why I owe you a few grand in contracts.
That's it, bro.
But,
He ended up being big stack bully over here, eh?
I've got it all written down anyway.
enough piston in my pocket. That I just wanted to bring up the point. You've done a lot for the young fellas coming up, and I know I'm not the only one that feels it as well. Talked to a few of the boys, and you're a legendary around the camp of Northland to this day, and hopefully you're back at some stage. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, bro, where that came from is when I was second year, sixth form, sort of playing my for Auckland Grammar. There was a number 8. His name's Jimmy Patu, bro. I don't know where he is now, but he was a legend. And I remember one of the games. He said, like, I was sort of performing too back then, and he was sort of like, "Do you wanna play this game?" Like before the game, it was a big game too. And I was like, I mean, yeah, man, I'll just come on whenever. I was on the bench all the time. They wouldn't give me a crack. He's like, bro, just be ready. Like 20 minutes in, and I was like, I don't know what I was just back then. That's unheard of.
what's
So I was
Jimmy
just-
plotting here? Eh?
Yeah, and he was our best player. So I was like, fuck, what's this dude gonna do? And then sure enough, 20 minutes in, it's like he just got sniped. Went down on the ground, bro, and then sort of just like they picked him up, and I was running on. He just sort of winked at me, and then that was it. Yeah, I played well, but then that sort of mentality, for me, stuck with me for ages. And like if guys, I can see guys are not getting a shot that can perform. I mean, if you can get them on there, then get them on there. If they're not gonna, be a detriment to the team, then let them have a crack.
So-
It's sort of my mentality.
Yes, sir. So when you you vouch for a dude, you have to know in your
Have
head
to
that he's
know,
ready.
yeah.
That he's
Yeah.
ready. You don't want to chuck a dude in
Nah.
too early. So you wouldn't vouch for a cat just because you like him.
No way. I mean, I did the same for Kara versus Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the listeners, I mean, my brother was, I always say he's a way better player than me, but he was just riding the bench. Coaches been giving him a shot, and then sort of I just did the same thing that Jimmy did. I told him, be ready. I sort of fake rolled my ankle. On he came, and his career speaks for itself. So
It's not the first time I've heard brothers doing that for each other, actually. I remember Quinton McDonald and Jesse down in Tassie.
yeah,
Q did the same for him, and it's pretty wicked, you know.
yeah. It's just something like you say, if they're ready, and they're ready, and like Carter's just as good as me, if not better. So we weren't losing nothing, you know what I mean? In my mind, so just bring them on.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, one bowl cut on for the other bowl cut.
Two, you can't have two bowl cuts on at the same time, mate. It's
Bro.
dangerous, dog.
Speaking of haircuts,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
do
get
you
on to
think
that.
your dreadlocks and shit has been big in your career?
100%.
Like,
100%.
yeah, like
yeah.
these things kind of they have
Yeah.
a big say in your career. Or I
Yeah,
reckon anyway.
For sure. I make no secret of it. I'm not, like I vouch myself as a good player, but you get looked, people see you.
Yeah,
Your dreads flying around and stuff like that. It's catch-22 though. If you fuck something up, you're seen.
Yeah.
If you do something good, you're
Yeah.
seen. So it goes both ways. But definitely, I never got dreads for that reason, but it definitely helps.
yeah. I know Tommy's he said the same thing. Tommy Robinson,
Yeah.
those ginger locks, and
Being ginger or just having long locks?
well, he's a double
Shout out to
threat.
the gingers.
Yeah, we are
We don't
couple deep.
discriminate.
Yeah, we don't discriminate. If I look back, I wish I got a bit of a blonde bowl cut myself, like one of those ones that when you get hit, it shimmers.
Yeah.
But probably would have went a lot further. But
Probably. The amount you get run over, surely. Yeah.
If he ain't getting run over, bro, he's trying to hit chins.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
if someone with a bowl cut runs at me, that thing's shimmering.
Don't take a man on with bulk. He's got demons.
We'll keep moving forward. So you have you chuck the Tanis on your back in 213 and 214 to be fair. I remember our fucking end of year highlight reel. It was just you. It was meant to be a team highlight reel. It was just you running around.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
The old run from Knucklehead down the fat man's track. But so we go 214. You have a good season, and the Landers come.
Yeah.
They come along. They come knocking. What was that like?
That was almost a relief too, man. Like that sort of nobody knows, but I was at another point in my career where actually the year before that I was with the Blues in 2012, just as a wider. I sort of had a really good preseason with the Blues. I think I was top try scorer by the end of the preseason, which doesn't say much, but it just says I was playing good footy. And then straight away, I think Jerome kind of got injured the first game, so they were going to bring a wider dude up to be in the full squad. So even all the boys are like that's going to be you. And they ended up just bringing Steve Luatua up, and no discredit to him. Obviously, he's the man. He's All Blacks and stuff like that. But he didn't play any of the preseason games. You know what I mean? So in my head, I was like, fuck. I played all these games. I played well, and then I just to get shafted over.
Yeah.
So that was pretty gutting to me. And then after the 214 season, 213, I had a good season too, and nothing came calling. So
Yeah.
well, I actually went back to work after that. I was like, I'm done with rugby, Super Rugby. I went and worked at
You had a job.
yeah,
He got
Was
a
it-
degree.
yeah. Oh, a degree, mate, bachelor in advertising. You gotta keep just hide in the dark, Stoolie.
If you're deep dig enough in the wheat picks packet, you'll find one of those
Yeah,
ones.
mate, yeah. They give them out to anyone, to be fair. But I went and worked at an advertising agency, bro, and I was just done with footy. And then 214, I came back. I like that sort of 9 months of working sort of made me realise I actually love footy.
Bro, straight up, I feel like any young footy players that want to, do their thing in footy should go get a shitty job for like 6 months.
Yeah.
'Cause you won't want to go back to that shit, You'll
exactly.
do anything once you get to footy, you'll be like, I'll run whatever.
You sort of think like this is hard, but you've got it as as an athlete, you've got an opportunity or a short window to do something, you know. If you're going to play footy, then you might as well have a good crack at it if your heart's in it. So that's what happened. 214, I came back, had a good season, and the Landers came. Jamie Joseph called me. I remember I was in the Bay of Plenty. We were about to play the Bay.
Yeah.
And he called me, and I remember him going, "Oh, we're going to offer you 2 years." And I'd just been hit back so many times, like, "Oh, 2 years are wider. I'm not too keen." And he was like, "No, full ride." And I was like, "Oh, beauty." But obviously I had no intel on Dunedin. Bronson Murray was in our team at the time, and he'd been there. And I said, I had the Blues asking as well. It's sort of funny, once the Landers called me, and then the Blues called me, and then the Chiefs called me, you know what I mean? So
Straight up. I couldn't even know that.
it's funny how that works.
What was there any, how did that decision-making process go? Was it?
Pretty much came down to Bronny, to be fair. I asked him what the Landers like. I'd been in the Blues before, and I didn't really enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was mean. It was just something out of the not right in the environment at the time. That's when we were sort of struggling. I mean, I think we got last the 2012 season, but I sort of asked Bronny, you know, what was the Landers like? And he's like, "Bro, you won't regret it. This place is the Mecca in terms of the culture and the boys." And I'd grown up in Auckland, and I'd seen Auckland before, so I was sort of like, I'm keen to see something else. So, yeah, man, it was Bronson Murray steered me down there.
Did you find the culture that you felt in Northland was, something you were looking for in terms of Super Rugby as well?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys know what the Northland culture's like. I mean, I always say it as like, I enjoy going to work when I'm playing for Northland, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As you get older and you play for different teams, you realise it's rare. It's not, you think you go to every team and it's like that, but it becomes different. So like every time I was with Northland, I actually enjoyed rolling in. So the Landers was the same. Ben Smith and Nasi Manu were the captains. They did a mean job of.
Yeah, I heard a lot of boys speak Nasi Manu pretty highly.
He was big dog when I rolled in. Obviously, he's Nasi Manu, and he'd already done big. I think he was playing Super Rugby at 19 or something. So he'd already been playing for 6 years. But I remember the first training. After training, he was last in the shed, just cleaning up the rubbish, like all that sort of little stuff. And he was the captain. You know what I mean? So I was just like, bro, this dude's sort of set the tone.
That little shit goes a long way.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, any team that's got a doco on them, like the Landers, they made that doco about that team that you're in.
I still haven't seen that doco too.
Nah, neither have I, but I can imagine it's a beauty.
There's a few weapons in that team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I mean, I know some of the stories. Obviously, we were all in. Won't be on the doco, but team building stuff. Yeah, but yeah, man. No, Landers was. That was one of the best decisions I ever made. You know? Yeah, and it's hard as a footy player when you got those sort of teams chasing you, and you got your hometown team. You know, so it's an interesting decision rolling the dice, but sometimes you come up good.
Yeah, I feel like the Landers kind of suit you.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but yeah, it felt that way. But going back to an iconic memory of the Landers, when you got nominated for Try of the Year. You bursted. It was a good try. It was a good team try, and the celebration. He's brought Cruden into the celebration. Yeah. The opposition player had I feel like that was the OG. I might be wrong, but I feel like it was the OG bringing the other team into your own celebration. Do you talk about that beforehand?
Nah, Elliot Dixon just did it, and when you say it's the OG, it might be, but he's also not that creative of a human. He's quite Neanderthal looking.
God must have been touching his brain for a second or two.
I mean, sometimes it happens, bro. But yeah, he just did it. But out of nothing. And if you watch the clip, I'm sort of like I don't even know what's going on until like the last second. But to be fair, man, Cruds was good about it. He just he was laughing and just jumped around with us.
He embraced it. To be
what can you do, bro? Like,
I know.
A part of you would be like, man, I want to sock this dude on sight, but the second part is like, oh, I look like a dickhead.
Yeah, he was there, man. He was a good dude. Anyway, man, he was real good about it. Yeah, we got nominated for Try there. You were my +1 for the.
yeah. I remember going to the awards night, eh?
We went to the awards night, and like obviously, it's like New Zealand Rugby Awards night.
Yeah.
so everyone's walking on the red carpet with their partner. And I walk down the red carpet with this dude. And
You
we're
bought a
taking
stud.
we're taking photos with all these like photographers.
What did you dress up like? Hook?
I snapped my tendon in my bicep. I had a cast on.
Or what?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
can't
cast
even
on
remember
like
it.
yeah. So I think they thought it was like a Make-A-Wish thing. I just brought this dude along with me.
Straight up, eh? I remember walking out there, all the proceedings were on. Like people were talking in radio. I walked out for a slash, walked down into the corridor, and it was like all the Tanis staff.
Yeah.
All the CEOs were on the piss in the corridor.
Just on the bar. Yeah, I remember that too.
That was a long time ago, though, guys. Not anymore. We'll be front row seats nowadays. You
We've
know.
evolved.
Yeah, very professional and evolved now.
Yeah, let's talk about the championship win though.
Yeah.
Because that was, I mean, I would say most bookies would have had you guys as underdogs.
100%.
And I reckon that's probably speaks a little bit about the culture you guys had and what happened. So give us a wee spiel about that winning time.
The funny thing is, bro, we lost to our last round robin game was versus the Canes, and we lost in Hawke's Bay like 44-0 or something. So we got pumped that game, man. And then we went to the quarters. We're playing the Chiefs in the quarters. I always remember this too because it was like in Dunedin playing the Chiefs, and I was driving my ute to the ground, and like the whole town was just pumping. Like the students are out. I remember dudes like jumping on the back of my tray. Yeah. Everyone, the whole city was banging my truck, and I remember getting in there, and like the atmosphere was just nuts, like nothing you could ever think about. Obviously with the zoo and it being an enclosed stadium, and then to be fair, man, like the culture, we had awesome coaches, and Jamie Joseph, Tony Brown always had this amazing attacking game plan like nothing you'd ever seen. I mean, you guys have seen the behind the back kick stuff that he
Were you there when he bought that? What was that at training? What was the yarns there?
Yeah.
Did he say, bro, I want you to turn around and smack this over your head?
So he knew we played a game 2 games before that where Nuggie Aaron Smith would pass it to Lima, and Lima would turn his back on the defense and either hand it off to the second 5 or inside to the prop.
Yeah.
So he did that deliberately 2 weeks before. We did it the last 2 games, knowing that we were going to play the Canes in the 3rd week, whoever rushed defense. So he knew that the Canes would watch that.
Hang on, you're telling me he plotted this 3 weeks out?
3 weeks before, yeah. And then we were playing the Canes. He was like, we're going to do that same move again. Lima, you're going to turn around, but instead of handing it off, you're going to kick it straight over your head because the Canes had a rushing defense.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, this dude's, so we had like Brownie, obviously see what he's doing with the Japanese team. They're just their moves and their creativity.
But you boys obviously had a lot of faith in what he was doing.
Yeah, well,
the execution of like that play in that moment was like on point.
Yeah. And he knew. I mean, we had Lima and stuff. We had the players to do it too. He had the thing about Brownie is he had full belief, which is what makes our team good. He had full belief in the boys, and he always said, "Hey boys, just pull the trigger." He was never a coach that sort of don't do. They say 50-50s, 50. He was always just like, boys, we've done the training, pull the trigger. And that's what like sort of made us awesome, apart from obviously what I love a lot of other stuff. But Brownie's confidence in the boys is unreal. Yeah.
When he said kick to Lima, kick it over, kick it behind you over your head, you was cracking up at the start, or were you cracking? Were you thought it was a joke or nah?
He explained why, and then he was like, "Yeah, just kick it over your head." And then we were like, and he's like, "Bro, give me the ball." No shit, the real story. He says, "Nuggie, give me the ball." So we ran it live, and he was running at 10. Brownie turned around and nailed it straight, perfect over his head.
Of course he did.
So he was like, "Just do it like that," and I was like, "This dude's the man, bro." So
I reckon you could have nailed that too, Nucky. That's about the maximum of your length.
My hamstring would have snapped clean in half.
But going back to your point, Dunes, that's like the sort of, he instilled that confidence all the time. And we obviously Super Rugby's a long competition. Yeah, and he'd come up with these game plans every week, and he's always just said just do your job, boys. Yeah. And the boys did, so
that'd be refreshing as well, having, all that new stuff coming in and not really particular and also explained well,
100%. Like he would take individual dudes. Like I remember him taking me like the first couple of weeks. I'm just going to work on your offload. So he just walked down the field with me.
Yeah.
You know, like where some coaches are like sort of shy off doing 50-50s or the stuff that I'd throw in a Northland, which are 50-50s anyway.
I remember you saying one training you play kind of touch, but you can only offload one-handed and shit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
those little,
Yeah, he's bigger. Man, he's ahead of his time then too. Obviously, some other coaches are catching up, but yeah, that sort of mentality. So Brownie would come with his game plans and then he'd train us accordingly, man, and it was coming off. So like, as it was coming off, we just kept believing and believing. And then
I guess if you call something a 50-50 and you train it all the time, then it ends up in a 70-30 or, you know.
79.5, he's going to 81.7.
Quick maths. But it was never like, even if it didn't come off, if everyone was running their right lines and everyone was doing their job, he was just like, that's how life works.
Yeah.
You roll the dice, and it was refreshing too, because all the boys had the confidence in the world. Who we were playing, in our heads, we were beating them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because some coaches, they are like, they're good at installing confidence. They're real good talkers and motivators, but sometimes lack on the game plan side or the technical side.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's got it both. He can do both, you know.
Yeah.
He's a genius at both of them.
Yeah, he is, man. And then you had Jamie Joseph, who's like, you know, if something's slipping or the standards are slipping, or he's a scary dude.
Yeah, you got that intimidation factor in there as well.
It's almost a perfect storm with them two, man. So
and they're kind of still together now, aren't they? Are they?
Yeah, for that reason,
Yeah.
I mean, why would you give that up?
They come as the package deal, eh?
Yeah, for sure, yin and yang. But so like when we were going into those finals, so obviously we beat the Chiefs. I dislocated my elbow that game, so I was gone. But I remember we were playing the Waratahs the next week, and this is like classic Brownie. I think they had 14 Wallabies in their starting lineup. So Izzy Folau at the back, and then I can't remember the wingers, they were all Wallaby wingers.
Yeah, good players, yeah.
So the whole season, no one was kicking it to them.
Yeah.
I remember Brownie walking in that week. He's like, boys, we're going to kick this ball. We're going to keep it in. And we were all thinking, like, why are we doing that? One of the best fullbacks in the game.
Contest the ball or just keep it in?
Both. Depends where we were on the field. But layman's terms, we were just going to kick it. So in our heads, we were like, what's this dude up to? Because their counter-attack is second to none. But in his mind, their forward pack was also all big boys. Yeah. So if we're just going to kick it, if we just kick it to them and they're going to run it, that means that their forward pack has to run shuttles almost for 60 minutes. Yeah. And they're going to blow out.
Yeah. I actually remember that game, and it felt like they were doing shuttles and like you guys were just like tactically like connecting and just standing around the halfway, not like, you know,
that's
using all your energy. And all those big boys are doing the shuttles and you guys were just like connected and just waiting for them to kick.
All week we just kick and we just practice our connection D.
Yeah. And
then we just ran up and they just ran it back. Obviously we tackled them. They ran their plays and we turned it over, we kick it again. So those boys are running.
Yeah.
Running. And then obviously, like you said, 60 minutes in, we just broke away.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy, dog.
Yeah. It's genius, really.
And then the final obviously came round and, I mean, we just lost to the Canes. We're playing them at home. But again, man, we had all the confidence that we were going to win. And it was one of those games, you know what I mean? Like, it was so close. And I remember, I think it was like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. I can't remember the exact time, but they put up a bomb and then Ben Smith went up and dropped it. And he never drops anything. And I was like, never. Fuck, that's like, you know, you get this little like feeling, oh, that's a sign.
Yeah.
And you know, you're watching like, fuck, no, that's a sign, bro. So yeah, it was a back and forth game. But yeah, I'm stoked. Fucking won it. Marty Banks, shout out to Marty Banks.
The legend.
The legend, Marty.
Shout out to Marty for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What a man.
So yeah, that was a good time.
So we go forward from the Landers. Māori All Blacks come calling next.
That was before, bro. So I played the Māori All Blacks the year before the Landers.
So you're Māori All Blacks straight out of Tanis.
Yeah.
Tanis produced some animals.
That's it, man. That's it. So yeah, now I got made by the Māori All Blacks, which has always been my granddad played Māori All Blacks and he took me to all my games. So
that's what I was gonna say. A couple deep, we're massive on family history, and
sure.
I think this one's a very special one and a pretty, rare. I guess it's happened now and then, but your grandfather Albie is obviously a legend, and from what I've heard, he played in a similar way to you and your brother. It's pretty it's pretty outrageous. I read up a little thing. He started at the Bop at Bay of Plenty as a number 8 and ended up in Auckland as a prop.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. This Auckland Cafe's got him, right?
Oh, wow.
Got him.
The dumpling cafe.
Yeah. He's from this little town called Te Teko, which is in the Bay of Plenty region.
To Texas, they call it. Eh?
Texas is what they call it, yeah. So that's where he's from. So he started there and then obviously played well enough for Auckland to catch his eye, along probably with a couple pies and then prop he was. But no, he was Maori or Black, but he took me and my brother to all our games, and he was sort of like a legend around sort of the dudes that knew rugby. So growing up, you always just see dudes talking about him so our whole sort of goal, my goal anyway, was to play for the Maori All Blacks. So it was big for me.
Bro, you would have been looking down with some pride.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember your dad telling me a story about him when he first made the Maori All Blacks. It might have been the Maori All Blacks, but about when he came into the team and he was at number 8, and I think number 8, and they said he goes, oh, what's the call? That was a midfield scrum, and he said, oh, what's the call for right or left? And they said the call is for a left is a fruit, and for right is a colour. And he's like, oh, yeah, sweet. And he goes down and he reckons they called out orange. And he's like, what, fruit or colour? He was rattled. He was rattled. The pros call out orange. He's at the back like, is it a fruit or a colour? Oh, man, I think they were just testing him, surely.
Who told you this, young old man?
Your old man, Kev.
Old man talks a lot of shit sometimes, but
Yeah,
he must be running out of stories.
Should have him on here then, really.
Yeah, for sure. I don't doubt it, man. There's some stories like you obviously know. It's just the classic the bar yarns, or when I was younger, there's heaps of yarns about him knocking out refs and shit like that. He was a bit of an animal.
No doubt. What age were you when he passed, rest his soul?
Man, what was it? I was an intermediate. I remember the day too, but I would have met him at like 11 or 12. Old enough to know what was going on.
So you know him, and you felt his mana and all that.
Yeah, well, I can still see the day. I remember the day that it all happened. You know what I mean? So that's how impactful it was. I can, so I was old enough to know. Kara was a bit younger, but he still knew. But
Kara would remember too.
Yeah. He was about 8 or 9. But I mean, the legacy lives on. That sort of drove us a lot. Like I say, my goal was to make that team, and to play well for the team. So.
I feel like some of the boys that I know that have made the New Zealand Māoris, I feel like they feel like some of them, if they went on to the All Blacks, their biggest achievement, what they're most proud of, is probably making the Māoris, Yeah. Because, the Māoris, that's a race of warriors right there.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I think, obviously the ones I know, Sock and Warby and a few of them, I can see the pride when they talk about it and shit, and that you can almost see back to their ancestors,
Yeah.
The Māoris are a wicked race.
It is, man. It's a mean team to be in too, because you sort of get in there and it's just like they teach you all about, Māori tanga, and I mean, there's constant Māori language going around. There's waiata all the time, and so you're just immersed in it, and you sort of realise how far back. Obviously, you know how far back your culture is, but like how much passion, how much mana there is within the Māori race, you know what I mean? So it's 100%. Like you're just learning as you go, and then obviously the older fellas coming in yarn, and it's a mean team. It's an awesome team for sure. So I have no doubt that some of the boys, like for me, I hold that in my highest regard. Yeah. And I'm not saying that just because I didn't make the All Blacks, but I was never good enough. But my goal was to make that team for sure.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, bro. Like, you're gonna be real. Your grandfather made it, and then you and your brother made it. Skip the generation. Old Kev, I miss Kev, but it went down to the grandchildren.
Too many left foot grubbers, you reckon, bro?
Kev could have been there.
His sons can't beat him at golf, though.
Nah, that's right. Yeah.
Dusty swings on.
There's still time, dog.
Oh, bro.
I was being mean. And the only regret is I haven't played in the jersey with Kara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, it was going to happen, and then I got injured.
You two were both like right in the mix at the same time.
Yeah, so he made it, and I was there, and I blew my ACL. So, he probably wouldn't have made it then. So, So I mean, hey,
he ain't here to defend himself.
Yeah, exactly. Good follow. But hey, there's still time. Who knows? I mean,
He's over in New York doing all sorts of skullduggery. Yeah. So next, where are we at? We go from Highlanders, and then we shoot over to Japan. You went to Sanix, right?
Yep. Yeah,
did Jamie Joseph suss that out? Because he's from the area?
Yeah, he sussed it out for me, which was funny. He sold me the dream, actually, because I was looking at going overseas anyway. And he was like, bro, this club Sanix, it's all you. It's like right on the water, surf all the time.
One foot.
Kept just saying surfing for me. I'm like, me, that's going to be my spot. I'm just going to go over there, play footy and surf, bro. Got over there. It's like the most rural town, like beautiful people, but it's like very rural. Like no one speaks English. And it was like, we were right next to the beach, fair play to them. But bro, the surf rolled in like once every fucking solar eclipse. You know what I mean?
No, A-frames, Mouldy.
You got to go for A-frames, mate.
So
Bailey's Beach, man. Yeah. It comes up with them every now and then. It's
man. And it was sort of in Japan, hockey, there's the big dog clubs and then the other ones.
Yeah.
There's a big gap, you know what I mean? So we were getting pumped most weeks. So yeah, it was an interesting time for me.
Yeah. You said, but obviously it's a blessing to go over there and stuff, but you said you struggled a little bit over there. Like, what kind of bit of loneliness or?
Oh man, it's multiple things. Like the biggest thing, because I went over there and I was like, sort of, I'm getting older. I played Super Rugby. I played Maori All Blacks, what I wanted to do. So, I mean, being realistic with it, obviously everyone on a couple deep, you go over to Japan sort of to play footy, but they pay better too. I mean, it's no secret why boys roll over there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so I was just like, sweet, I'm going to earn a bit more money sort of before my body gives out, and that'd be awesome, I'll just play footy there and go on holiday. But the thing I missed the most, man, was the intensity. It's funny what you miss. Because you obviously come from Super Rugby and you're playing the Blues or the Chiefs, and you're rolling into the stadium and the crowd's pumping and everyone's fucking awesome, so you got to be on your game. The intensity and like the passion and stuff is crazy. No disrespect to the Japanese league, but it's not Super Rugby level. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I miss that sort of intensity for one, and then just the living, like the lifestyle just wasn't me. I mean, you guys know me. I'm like surfing and cruising around and all this sort of weird stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Just on top of that, like you're obviously a man who, you're a family man, in terms of the way you grew up, and so looking at that, like, how did you make the most of the situation? Because you've always been a person to make the most of any situation as well.
Yeah.
And, what were the parts of Sanix that you really stuck into and you loved?
Yeah, so obviously like being away from family and stuff like that, you sort of gravitate towards the foreigners. We're always having like foreigner barbecues, and then my first year was all good. I was taking in the Japanese culture hard. Yeah. Obviously, it's like a honeymoon phase when you're going out with a girl. Everything's sort of new and you're loving it.
Yeah, it's crazy when you first get there.
Japan or the girl?
Both.
Just zoned out there, but you're just looking into oblivion.
I was thinking of those vending machines when I first got there, bro. I was like looking at those vending machines, like shit. Some of them have got hot canned drinks in there, and I'm like,
yeah.
Bro, everything, all the lights. I was like, oh.
It's just a different world, man. And obviously, honeymoon phase, you're just blown away by all of it. But then as you're there for longer, the second year, third year, you sort of realize it's just like I explain to people all the time. It's like everything's always the same. They're an awesome culture in terms of being nice, but like they're very robotic by nature. Like I could look at my window at 8 a.m. and tell you who's going to walk by. Like, you know what I mean? It's just very, very dull for me.
I've got a story to this day that still boils my piss a bit. Like this is the kind of like Japan's wicked. Like it's a wicked culture and stuff. But there's a few things there. I had a little scooter, and you got to buy your car park. So I was in Tokyo, and you got to buy a car park for 50. It was like $50 a week for one of the boys or something.
Yeah.
And they bought this car park and they were away, so there was a free car park, and I had a little scooter, and it was right beside my apartment, so I wanted to park my scooter there, so I did. And then next minute I get a phone call from the club. Someone's like rung the cops, and then it rung the club, and I get a phone call saying, you got to move your scooter from the car park.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, it's like my mate's car park. He said, all good, you stay there. Like, you can chuck your scooter there. Tiny scooter. And they're like, no, you got to move it. It's not your car park. And I was like that kind of stuff kind of got to me a bit. With all the great things, that I love my time there. But those little things they can niggle you a little bit. And Yeah, I feel what you're saying.
They do wear down on you, man, and it's just like it's hard to explain to people, but it's just like if there's structure for like the Japanese, not just the players, but for their culture to follow, like, you know, if they have a plan, they're like the greatest culture in the world at doing it. They'll just nail it out. But anything outside of the box, and they just sort of struggle, like what you're saying. Like I always explain, like if you go into a cafe there and they got like, you know, something like eggs on toast, but then another meal's like avocado on toast. If you're like, oh, can I just put avo on my eggs? And then that just blows their mind. They're like, no, you can't do that.
Oh, yeah, bastard.
Yeah, it's like, no, you can't do that. You can't put. It's like, what do you mean? You've already got. I know you've got avos because it's on another meal. You just chuck it on there and add like 50 cents. They're like, nah.
No chance. No chance. Order 2 meals, please.
Yeah, 100%. So it's that sort of stuff, man. I mean, it's not a be on indoor, but it's just like, you know, it's just not. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
It's such an incredible culture, though. Eh? Like, I just the pride they take, and even you could work for McDonald's or whatever over there, and they're proud to be in that company, and they'll do like the best burgers or
Still
whatever, you know.
The best McDonald's ever.
Yeah.
Like their McDonald's like a 5-star restaurant. Like, it's unbelievable how nice that stuff is. I would tell people all the time, they're like, McDonald's like McDonald's, bro.
There's probably things we can learn off them and things they can learn off us, you know. It's,
the discipline, like you say, is unbelievable. But the thinking outside the box when something's not structured is what they could learn from us.
It's a clean place too over there.
Oh, bro, it's nuts. Yeah, very clean.
You could lick the canvas knuckle.
I know.
You probably would too.
Not if you've been walking over.
Not with those hooves.
I wouldn't go near it.
Those piggish hooves.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, we keep going in your Japan life. We end up being in the Sunwolves, obviously the super team over in Japan. And I know you speak of some pretty fond memories there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, man. So that was like my first year in Japan. I went over there after the Landers. I think it was 2018. And back then the Japanese league was like 7 games.
Yeah.
So I went over there, didn't do a preseason, played 7 games, and then I was back for Christmas. And then Tony Brown messaged me because he was the coach at the time. He said, "Oh, do you want to double up and play Sunwolves? Like start camp in 3 weeks?" I said, "Yeah." Clip the ticket, double up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
make the most of the rig while I can.
Most definitely.
But yeah, man, awesome team. Everyone knows that at chat. Like it's just the boys. I say boys tour, but it's sort of doing it injustice because when someone hears about boys tour, it's just like it sounds like a pissing up thing. But it's like in terms of it's just traveling all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're either playing in Japan, some of our home games in Singapore, which is 6 hours.
You were literally living at a hotel even in Japan, eh?
Yeah, we're living in a hotel in Japan. Yeah, the humble Ichihara.
Oh, I've got an itchy one.
Bro, nothing goes on in Ichihara. But now it was mean to you, man. Like the boys are awesome. We're, like, you know what it's like when you're traveling that much with the boys, you get close.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sunwolves was pretty full of foreigners as well.
Yeah, we had a stacked team out the gate, to be fair, and then like the first game we had like 9 injuries to all, like Ranger was one of them, to our starting players, and then took a bit of a shot, but we managed to get a couple of mean upsets, beat the Chiefs at home, beat the Waratahs at home. So yeah, it was mean.
Yeah, I remember you telling me a couple of stories because obviously you're all together all the time. What was you were in some kind of committee? It was in charge of the Wi-Fi, or I tell us that, yeah.
So I was in charge. We had this thing called News of the Week, which was like every Monday I'll just put a text out to the boys on the Sunday, like if you've got any yarns of the boys getting up to mischief or photos, you call them out on anything, like send it to me on Sunday night. Yeah, I'll put a little PowerPoint news presentation. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I was like 3-4 weeks in of that, and we're obviously running out of material real fast. I think it's James Moore, who plays for the Japan team now. Jimmy. He sort of said, bro, we'll do this thing where, because we're living in a hotel, we'll go to the hotel manager and get like a email sent to us, like with the emblem and everything, so it's legit, saying that the boys are running through the Wi-Fi too hard. And we got the rooms of who's running through the most and what they're watching. So, bro, I remember I was like, all right, boys, news of the week. But just before we start, just a bit of housekeeping, some serious stuff going on. Obviously, don't want to fuck our sponsors up. So we've had some complaints from the other guests in the hotel that the Wi-Fi's been playing up. So the managers come to me with a list of, because when we stay here, the Wi-Fi is just out of gigs. So we've got a list here of the boys with their rooms and what they're watching. So if you got something to say, obviously put your hand up now and tell me what you're watching.
They're shared rooms too, aren't they?
No, we're
You're all separate.
Yeah, we're yeah. And I was like, if you want to put your hand up and say it now, just tell me what you're watching, or I'm gonna read this list out. And no shit, I'll stand in front of all of them. They were all like white. Yeah, the boys are like, we live in this place, that's Chihara, which is
understandably.
Like, yeah, it's rural as. Obviously, the boys been on tour for a while, so I mean, you know what goes on. Shit, there ain't nothing going on, man. It was funny. Just they all going white, and I was like, right, I'll read them out. I was just making it up. I was like, room like 431, and then like he was like, fuck, and I'll just make up some thing. I was like, back to Patrol 5, HD. It's like a 2-hour video, mate. What's this? You know what I mean?
HD,
yeah,
high def.
HD wax their gigs down.
Yeah, you got to go high def.
Oh, high def for sure. 1080p. Obviously, judging by the laughs, the boys know what that is. But yeah, man, that was a great up. It was a good gig. It was a very good gig.
That's cool. Some good quality stuff.
Fuck, you've had some crazy. We're not even fully through the story, and you've had some crazy yarns. Crazy. It's been a beautiful career, and we're not even to the end of the yarn.
Yeah, for sure.
It's dope to reflect on it. So we move on. Been at the Sun. You're captain of the Sunwolves in the end, eh?
Yeah, I was. So it was funny because I wasn't even in the leadership group when I was in the team. So I was just sort of just a player, and then we had like the leadership group. We had our 2 captains. I think it was Michael Little and Craig Miller. Both awesome dudes. And then we had a whole leadership group, so they were all on their own. And like 4 weeks in, I got called in to the leadership meeting at like 8:30, I was like, bruh, what am I getting called in here for? Like, I've obviously done something, playing up.
DP's normally asleep.
That's
way too late.
That's way too late. I went too early. And then, I obviously got called in, and I was like, man, in my head, I was like, what have I done? Because I'm getting called into the leadership group at fucking Monday morning. Yeah. And then, like, I just walked in, and Brownie's like, obviously, both our captains are injured, so you're captain now. And I was like, all right, beauty. I just sat down around the table and just like got on with it. But now that I reflect on it, it's weird because all these other dudes in the leadership are obviously I was just like, why didn't you nominate one of them? But I mean, all good. So I didn't mind it.
Yeah. But it's pretty buzzy, like being captain for a team in Japan, like a pretty iconic team over there. Really. Yeah. I remember going to some of those games. And
that's when DP was at his most Ragnar look, though. Had the side shaved.
Yeah, that's how he got that fucking captaincy.
The glory days, bro. Some would say.
I think they were.
I miss those days, bro.
They were envisioning Vikings.
Yeah.
Through it.
It was fun. The funniest thing about that stuff was like the questions after the game from the reporters, like the Japanese reporters. You know, it's like you say, like some of their questions is already like pre-written, and they can't differ from it. Like I remember we got pumped by like 30 or 40. I can't remember which team. But then, like, they're like, oh, Pryor son. And I'm like, yeah, you know. And they're like, oh, why didn't, like, 28th minute, why didn't you go for goal? You were only 20 metres out. I was like,
sure.
We're down by 30, dog.
You know Mind you, you'd have one of the best kickers in the game.
Oh, for sure. And if we were in contention.
Hayden Parker.
If we were in, shout out Quasi.
Yeah,
if we were in contention for the game, I'd shoot him all like he's a sharpshooter. But I was like, we're down by 40. And you want me to kick for 3? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, where's this question come from? Do the maths, bro. You know what I mean? So I kick for the corner. You're like, see. So, fuck.
Would you, speaking of Hayden Parker, I'd rate him as probably one of the best goal kickers in the world.
Oh, do you?
Would you say that? I'm only deadly inside the 22.
If you were inside the 22 with Quasi, do you reckon you could beat him?
Only inside the 22, I reckon.
You could beat him?
I'd push him out to 30.
Oh, well, I'm done.
30 metres.
30 metres?
Inside the 22, me and Quasi will go hammer and tongs, but...
But you would beat him?
Nah, I think it would be just over. All right, we're going to push this shit out to 30.
He is deadly, man. Right. He is deadly. I mean, what was this? It was some record. He was like 40 straight or some stuff like that, wasn't he? He missed the kick for like 2 years.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
It's easy as a captain. I mean, if you're anywhere near the post and you're in contention of the game.
Yeah.
You almost don't even, you know, sometimes as a captain, you sort of point at the 3 and you get the team to like line up and chase it. With him, you almost just point at it and just walk back.
Walking back.
Sit for the kickoff.
I remember watching and it was like half the time you get like the commentator's curse.
Yeah.
And like, I remember like you're playing like the Waratahs and he was kicking from the absolute sideline and there was like a hissing wind, and they were like, "There's no way he's getting this. There's absolutely no way." But he just sits at like 20 meters out to the right of the post and just swings on, and they're like, "No way."
He's a special man.
Even the
He'd be one of your
commentators
top
get
tens,
away.
wouldn't he?
Oh, for sure. He's right up in the top 3.
Big tackling team. He tackles too.
He bangs a man too.
Doesn't mind a brewski either.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Out doing the hard graft on the farm these days, eh? Shout out to Quazzy.
Yeah, it was.
You spoke a little bit about like how it's transferable from like rugby through to like in general business as well. Just around like the leadership qualities that you've got to go through, in rugby, but also like the mental fortitude. Yeah. That the whole career has to deal with, and like anyone with mental fortitude in any job is probably going to prevail over a lot of people.
Hard.
That's the biggest one. I mean, you guys know the biggest thing about any sport, I think, at the top level is the mental side. People just think it's this dude's physically gifted and that's why he's there. No. He's like mentally, he's strong. You have to be, or else.
Some of these blokes aren't even physically gifted. You know what I mean?
Three
and
of
they're
them
still in.
There's 3 of them here.
I was going to say,
which there's 2 dudes with chicken legs and one with a concave chest. Exactly. But I just try to explain it to people because, like I say, they only just see the Sky TV or the Instagram highlights and they don't know through the week that there's so much shit going on. Especially with these younger players. I mean, you've seen some like younger players in suicide in the NRL and like, you know what I mean? So it's like, people got to know, like, there's some prodigies coming through like 18, but they're not trained to like, as soon like he might be in the All Blacks or Super Rugby at 18. All of a sudden there's 30,000 people watching him and there's fucking a million other people watching around the world and they're keyboard warriors and they look, I mean, they're 18, they're going to look at shit. So it's like, it's a whole other, there's an underlying level to it.
Oh, but exactly. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, But at the same time, it's such a blessing and we're not taking anything away from that.
No, for sure.
3 of us, It's, you make brothers, that'll be there till the casket drops, It's,
It's like Brownie said, mate, best days of your life, really.
Indeed.
Oh, they are.
And like Tom Brady's finding out he probably pushed it 1 year too long.
That's it, bro.
He lost his supermodel wife, and, Sometimes you just got to know when to tap out,
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about now. Now that the
There's no
story goes
supermodel
on.
wife. Or
I know that's not happening.
oh, Uncle's laughing about it.
Shit. You cut your dreads off your face.
Yeah, I know, man.
Nah, actually, I reckon you could be a supermodel.
You reckon?
Some sort of model. Yeah.
All right, 94 Hilux probably.
Yeah. Oh, that's leading on to the next question, bro. Like obviously I'm not saying you're in your twilight. Yeah. You've probably got a few years left, whatever.
Matta's still going at 40, man.
Exactly.
He's our canary down the mine, bro.
you got to
retiring. I just go, is Matta still playing?
Bro,
yeah, I'm good.
He represents hope.
Yeah.
You got to realise he comes from a lot of pedigree, He's got he's built like a Spartan.
No, he's 1 day off from blowing out that boy. I'll say that much for sure.
He's one Macca's feed.
Yeah. But I want to ask, how do you feel about that next phase of your life? Or what's the field there? Obviously, it's pretty hard. Like, footy is your identity. Everyone speaks about it. It's played professionally or even not professionally. It becomes your identity, and there's a bit of a crossroads once you end up when that's all she wrote. How are you feeling about that part coming up?
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty daunting, eh? Like, you do one thing all your life, you get used to it all, and like you say, it becomes your identity. But I mean, you almost just gotta like accept it. And I mean, if I'm telling the truth, this is the first time I said it on. I might as well do it on
There's
here.
a couple deep exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive. That's one of the reasons why I cut my dreads, is because like everyone knows me as Dan, the rugby player. Yeah.
Brotherhood.
Yeah, 100%. This is one of the reasons why I cut it.
That's
because like everyone knows me as that guy, and I sort of know that it's coming to an end, and I got to get used to not being that guy no more.
Wow.
I got to get rid of him. You know what I mean? If I want to move on, I got to leave him behind.
Yeah.
You just blew my mind a little bit.
That was,
Yeah.
I didn't even know
You're a
that.
bastard.
And I watched you, I watched you cut them off.
Yeah. It was tough for me. I mean, I had them for 9 years, and it was my identity. And like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I walk around now, and even back at Toll with the Women's World Cup, like no one knows me anymore, and like you just got to come to grips of like, that's just, and you've had your time, and everyone talks about windows in life. I've had my time as that dude, and now I gotta put him to bed, or else I can't move on. You know what I mean?
So you're kind of preparing yourself and training yourself for that time by cutting off your dreads, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way I'm trying to do it, and I'm thinking about other stuff. Obviously, we got Shaq Life.
That's deep.
Yeah, I mean, it's exclusive, dog.
Time waits for no man.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, but I knew that, man, like, because every time I had my dreads, I sort of like, I walk out, I mean, around here, and people know me as this dude, you know, they know me.
Yeah, I feel you.
And I just like, but if you fall into that false sense of security, especially now they're coming to an end, you're going to come to it and you're going to finish, and you'll be like, okay, what am I going to do now? It's too late. So I've got to start early, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've got to get rid of that dude first, and then figure out who I can be after this, in this next section, because there's still a lot of life to live.
Damn
Well,
right.
hopefully, dog.
Damn
Hopefully.
right.
But yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I cut them, for sure.
Wow. Fuck.
Yeah. Lost a lot of
I'm just taking a second.
love interest now there.
I'm just taking a second to process this. Yeah.
But no, that's the reason, man. And then, yeah. I mean, obviously got Shaq Life going here. Obviously, this podcast is debuting. Who knows? You
Yeah,
know,
well, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, actually, well, this is actually something we skipped slightly because let's just have a quick run back to Northland, because obviously, like, I know, like, you live with Dan and Fids in their first year in Whangarei, but then ever since then, you know, we lived out in Tutukaka Coast, and this is sort of where it all starts. So give us a wee rundown on the shack and how that all started.
So you can tap in on this obviously as well, but people that haven't heard Dan Hawkins's What a Lad podcast, but we all lived on the Tutukaka Coast, which is where we're doing this podcast right now. It's just a little, like, it was a shack.
We're actually above the original shack
we are.
that existed.
That's iconic.
was
The
a big-
first podcast is done is above the original shack.
It was
While
a-
drinking shack, like.
How good.
Crazy, yeah. It was a big shack. I mean, how many rooms? They had one big living room. The shower was in the living room. The kitchen was in the. So if you're having a shower, you're just looking at the boys watching or
We
whatever.
were living in that room.
We were
You have to
living
be
in it.
comfortable with each other. That's for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was obviously two sort of attached rooms, but you could hear everything. We used to. What do? We used to cook feeds on a brazier outside. We used to go out and collect driftwood from the river, bring it back in, light a fire, put the hot plate on, and just cook our feeds on there.
We sound like a bunch of barbaric mongrels, eh?
But honestly, bro, I look
It
back
was
at
a
it.
bit like that.
And I was like, that's the best time of my life. I had such a
straight
good
up.
time. Like, there's no Wi-Fi here.
Nah.
There's no
Nothing.
Sky. There's no Netflix. There's nothing. You know, we came home from training. Someone will get the driftwood. Our shower was outside. We had an outdoor shower.
There's still that dirty 5G floating around. But
Yeah. I mean, for a couple of 1080s, 1080 HD quality. I think one of us could have one HD movie a week. But
We had Kara's hard drive. That thing had dodgy shit on it.
what about it? Nah, that's a lie. I didn't forget about that hard drive. But
It's memorable.
yeah, man, our shower was outside and it was just like a shack, and we all just.
I remember, bro.
We had the best time.
You'd walk up to that outside shower and there's the bottle of Pantene right next to it, and I was like, bro,
not being used, eh?
this must be a Pryor's house.
Exactly, man. But that's where it all started, and then I mean, I'll let Mouldy touch in on it, but will you go for this? But your granddad was brewing, eh?
Yeah, so like touching on where Shack Life Rum actually started. My granddad was a big drinker.
The
and
last one.
Yeah, one of the biggest drinkers on earth, really. He'd drink 6 crate bottles minimum a night, up to probably 11. He'd never really smack a whole crate, but he got close. And
Gotta have goals, you know.
yeah, eventually he got Crohn's, so he couldn't drink beer anymore. And so we decided, fuck it, I'm just going to make rum and drink it in the same quantity.
That's where these life challenges come up, and you hit that challenge and you boom, you just go the other way.
But like
keep
for,
going.
for the listeners,
Don't fold.
all 4 of them,
There's 3 here. We've got to recruit one.
how long ago, like, you just got to explain how long this rum has been in the making.
Yeah, so it was about, I'd say 20 years ago he started making rum.
So it's honed in.
It was like honed into his, it was almost in his nature that, you know, he made the rum and 4 p.m. every day was rum o'clock. And his little brewery out there, out on the farm would kick off and all the neighbours would come down and get stuck into it with him. And he was diligent around how he made it. And he came up with a wee masterpiece. But I remember at a Mad Monday after a Tanis season, it was probably one of those tough Tanis seasons that we had. I was like, boys, let's go have Mad Monday out at the brewery. And so we've all gone out there. We've had a hell of a do trying some of his beers and the different rums that he's made and all sorts of stuff. And the boys from the original shack were like, we should make a rum out of that. You know, some of that stuff was, was pretty special tasting. And so we went back home, took all the boys out from the shack, and we came up with a pretty special spiced rum with a cinnamon background, and it's been pretty popular ever since. And I imagine soon in the future she's going to be public knowledge and available for the boys to try too. So I look forward to that day because it's got a good history.
It's a dark horse, yeah. It's just gonna pop up. But like you say, we sort of made the rum to what our lifestyle was in the shack. That's why it's called shack life. You know what I mean? It's sort of like all the boys that were there. You know what I mean? Like we all had our input in it, and it's a nice rum. And we sort of, I remember talking about it. I was like, how do we make this alcohol, but like how do we not get as hungover? Because that's the problem with rum and cokes, you know what I mean? So we've made it to a style where you don't actually have to have that much coke in it. You can almost just have it on the rocks if you're that way inclined, or you can just have a little bit of water. So it'll come out. Watch this space. Sure, it's got a lot of money behind it.
How proud would your granddad be right now? Us 3 getting a lick off a bit of his old shacky.
Honestly, mate, he's
God, he'd be beaming with pride.
Oh yeah, he was a publican himself, and he was a weapon in all sense of the word. Chain smoked since he was 9, and he loved the brew. And,
9.
And to see
he'd murder a fucking ciggy.
To see one of his beverages that got created in his brewery, carrying on for a lifetime, he'd be pretty proud. It's something he loved.
Go rest his soul, bro. Shout out, legend. How we sipped to that actually?
Yeah, John McMurray. Cheers, my boy.
John McMurray.
Legend. Alright, boys. This has been a dope first. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed this first podcast.
Yeah, it's been good.
And to have my 2 brothers on it. It's been and on the shack, where the shack was originally actually at, even though there's a nice modern flash house on it now.
Yeah, times
I
change,
pretty much
bro.
built Noah's Ark on here. If there's ever a flood, this thing will just float away.
Which means we've got to take it on, There's going to be a 2.0 somewhere.
That's it.
Shout out to you, Hawkie, for, you've been talking about this podcast for a while.
Yeah, hard out.
Honestly, man, watching you run the technical side of stuff has been entertaining. I never thought I'd see the day where Hawkie's running a whole lot of technical
It's all trial
devices.
and error, boy.
Yeah, it's all trial and error. The great thing about it is you can edit. Like if Knucklehead comes up with his classic average chat, piss poor chat, I can edit it straight out. That's what I quite liked about it.
It's a beautiful thing, though,
Half
isn't
of
it?
this,
This should probably be 3 minutes long.
Half this conversation.
This is probably going to be 3 minute long, but this podcast.
Delete the whole delete the whole
Brian,
fucking
how you
thing.
going? Pay for the Landers. Cheers, everybody. That's
Won the championship, that's about it.
yeah. We didn't even talk about the championship party too.
There's a lot of avenues we could delve down, bros.
Bender at Bender's, wasn't it?
There was
it?
one, yeah. There was. Bender lives on the golf course, but I remember we all ran round there one day, He's obviously got a wife, beautiful wife, Katie, and kids that don't want to be woken up. But the boys, we had to have one beer at Bender's.
Oh, you had to.
Bender.
It would almost be weird if you didn't.
His nickname alone.
Straight up a legend.
Significance to the championship. We went for 6 days straight, I remember. Saturday we won it, and then we went till like Friday.
How many of the boys actually went 6 days straight?
Most of them, bro, to be fair.
Yeah, well, that's why it's such a great team.
Yeah, most of them, yeah. We had our Mad Monday. We had the Monday, we had our parade, and then I remember Brownie messaging everyone saying there's a court session, be at this place at 4. And then, I mean, I can't delve into the details of that court session, but there was about 5 hours.
Wasn't
We'd never even ask.
There's a lot, yeah.
What goes on behind those walks is because should stay there probably.
Yeah.
Wasn't Fumi Tanaki?
Fumiaki Tanaka.
Yeah, the very Fumi. Wasn't his wife looking for him?
Mate, what weekend? Every fucking weekend, his wife had messaged one of the boys, have you seen Fumi?
I'd hate to know what you boys did to that trophy as well.
Fumi's pubes will be all over it.
He had like his pubes just released easy. It's like
plucked out
I've
real
come
easy.
from a Pantene background so my hair's like obviously nourished, but his just come off like a 6-hour slow cooked.
He was different, bro.
He was.
For
and
a
he was
Japanese
good
fella,
too.
eh?
He was good, man. He was the OG, like
Straight
original.
up.
He was so small, like, but he was just so intelligent. The way he saw the game, and then the way he was like.
And his
You've been in
humour.
Japan,
Yeah.
Japanese culture, and then there was Fumi. Like, where did that thing come from?
Yeah. How did that
come
progression?
About, yeah. It was almost like a Kiwi
evolve?
dude that was born in New Zealand. You know, he like drank piss. He took the piss out of everyone. Like, he just loved it.
That's good stuff.
Shout out to Fumi.
I remember I'll tell a story about Fumi. We were in the Sunwolves, and then Fumi was in the Japanese side. So about 6 weeks in, 3 dudes came from the Japanese side to play in our Sunwolves team. And obviously Monday I was on News of the Week, so I was like, okay, boys, News of the Week's coming up. Obviously it's going to be amazing. But I was like, we got 3 new players here joining the crew. So like, obviously you know what it's like in footy. You get up and introduce yourself. So the 2 dudes get up and do a formal Japanese introduction. Like, you know, I play this, I'm from this club, did a bow, this is what I represent. And then Fumi jumps up and he's Fumi up Tanaka. Like, he's a big dog in Japan. He's obviously super rugby. He just gets up and goes, everybody knows who I am. Just fucking sits down. But I was like, fuck, he's the man. He's a legend.
Oh.
But yeah, there's some characters.
Oh, but it's been a hell of a podcast.
Yeah, first one. All good. Many more to come.
Oh, as much as we'd all love to stay and chat,
Exactly.
get a bit more shaky down us, but just to write us out, brother DP, and Moldsy, 2 of my close friends, and I just want to, you know, you mean a lot to me, DP, and it means a lot you're here for my first one, and you, Molds. You've done a lot for me, like these, I think early on, these insignificant things that people, you know, just by telling the coaches to give me a start, shit like that, the knock-on effect's pretty big, you know. Mm-hmm. I ended up staying in Northland for a long time.
Bring up 100, surely, wouldn't you?
That's what I'm gunning for. See, this carcass hangs in there, but you know that knock-on effect, even meeting my bird, Caitlin, and then having my baby, like it even goes that far, you know. Having my boy Jai, means a lot, and you know things might have been different if you didn't vouch for me. So always love you for that, my brother.
Cheers, bro.
Nah, I love it, and
here's the couple deep.
here's the couple deep. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, all that. Carry on.
YouTube, Spotify,
All the
Bless.
all other media platforms.
drink some Shack
All
Life
those
in
media
your life,
platforms.
mate. Don't regret it.
Shack Life 2023 coming in hot.
Bless.
Cheers, mate.